So first, just kind of tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Adam Baker, and I'm the owner of the Schooley Mitchell franchise here in Erie. And what we do is we work with organizations to help them reduce their indirect costs.
Perfect. So tell us about your background with BNI, from when you very first heard about them to when you actually signed up and became a member.
Yeah, I heard about BNI through my onboarding training with my franchise. They talked a lot about BNI and, how important BNI was. And I didn't know what it was, so I had to Google it to even see what it was. But it was something that the franchisor had recommended that each one of us join the BNI chapter. Our franchise, they actually have a really good relationship with Ivan Meisner, so much that Ivan Meisner came and spoke at one of their events because we're just such big proponents of BNI and the power of BNI. So that's the first I'd heard of it, and I immediately joined just because, that's what they say to do, and it's been a great experience since.
Awesome. So next question then is going to be, how has BNI benefited your professional life in general?
Yeah, BNI has really helped me professionally just because it's helped me become a more polished networker. When I opened my business, I had no networking experience. I was in an industry where we were very isolated. I didn't need to network with anyone. Joining BNI, there's the training that you go through that kind of teaches you how to properly network. What is it you're trying to do? You're not trying to collect a bunch of business cards. You're trying to forge relationships. And so now it's to the point where I've got a lot of relationships through BNI, so much so that I'm traveling to North Dakota in 2 weeks, and I've got a one-to-one scheduled out there with someone I've never even met before. They just happen to be another BNI member.
Perfect. So just judging off of what you said there, it also has some benefits to your personal life as well, traveling all the way across the country just to meet someone that you've met through BNI.
Well, absolutely. So I'm working on a vehicle, and I'm not mechanically inclined, but I'm just trying to learn as you get older. And there's a mechanic in our BNI group, and he's having me come over to his shop tomorrow so that we can look at a few things and he can kind of guide me. He's already ordered the part that he's pretty sure that I need. So yeah, on the personal side, it's beneficial. On the business side, it's beneficial. Just overall, it's been really, really good to build those relationships.
Awesome. So this question here, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what we've heard before. So the question is, what was the most appealing part of BNI to you personally? And some of the examples would be, maybe it's the referrals, maybe it's the networking, or maybe it's like the exclusivity side of things where you're the only professional in your region in there. So what was personally to you the most appealing part of it?
Honestly, it's the referrals, because my business is so heavily referral based. Companies are getting inundated with phone calls from people saying that they can save them money, so much so that we're just white noise now. What's critical for us is when someone has the trust of that business owner that says, hey, you need to talk to Adam. That's really important for my business. So that's really why I look to join BNI.
Awesome. So going off of that, what do you think then is the most appealing part of BNI to your fellow members that you've met so far?
I would, it's really tough. One of the most appealing things is obviously going to be the referrals, but in the pursuit of referrals, you build relationships. And that's kind of the cool part about it. You're just not going to get referrals. You don't get the referrals without the relationship, right? So you join for the referrals, but one of the other really appealing parts are those relationships.
Awesome. So would you say that aside from the relationships and the networking, is the exclusivity of being the only professional in your chapter, is that something that is on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 5, how important is that to you?
Yeah. So to me, it's not quite as important, only because we have a broad range of opportunities that I'm willing to shed some of what I do to increase the network size. but that's because I have quite a few different offerings. Whereas someone maybe in a more, like a banking industry, right? That exclusivity is very, very important to them, and you can understand why, because they only have certain services that they can offer, and to have someone come in and take part of it, it's a little challenging. I know when I talk to people about BNI and I say, it's a awesome organization that you're gonna network with business leaders that are in the area. And if you join, no one else like you will join. So you get the referrals. That really means a lot to people, because it means that they're not competing with someone else for those referrals. It means that when the opportunity comes, they're going to get a shot at it.
Perfect. I think you said that perfectly. Okay, so then the next one here, we're going to step a little bit more into your chapter specifically. What steps has your chapter taken in order to market BNI to others in your community?
Yeah. So what we've done is, I know when we attend chamber events, we talk about, BNI and the power of BNI, because you've already got a group of people that are there to network, right? And so we talk about, the power of networking.
Okay, then kind of on the other side of things here, whether it be something that your chapter could accomplish right now, or it's something to no fault of their own, how do you think that your chapter could improve upon their marketing?
That is a great question. This is a really good example. So we don't have a very big social media presence, and that's where everyone is right now. And you've got to meet people where they are. So getting a little bit more of a social media presence, get us out there so people understand us. I think that's something that we could do a little better on.
Definitely. That's what we're here to do. So that's good to hear that from members like yourself. And kind of leading into that. So right now, how easy do you think it is for you to personally, whether you're a chapter leader in your community or just a chapter member, how easy do you think it is for you to represent BNI in terms of just marketing in the online world or the physical world?
Oh, it's easy. It's very easy. After you become a member for a little while, you really understand BNI, you get the value of it. And so it's very easy to talk about. And it's one of those things that you're proud to talk about. It's a great organization. So there's nothing underhanded or tricky about it. We get to the point where we know each other's businesses so well, we recognize where, maybe my client would benefit from an introduction to this other person. So it's not just making referrals to make referrals. It's saying, hey, here are two organizations that if they work together, it could be mutually beneficial. That's something to be proud to talk about, to say that, hey, we're creating opportunities to help other businesses. So I don't think it's very difficult to market BNI at all. To be honest, the most effective form of marketing is having people show up to the meetings. Just, hey, listen, we're not interested in you becoming a member. We just want you to come and sit at the meeting and just let us know what you think. And as people sit at that meeting and they see the relationships, they hear about the thank you for closed business, they're seeing the referrals get passed. That's the best marketing, because that's BNI in action. Because you can talk all you want about it, but until somebody experiences it, that's really where the rubber meets the road.
Okay, it's interesting you say that. So that brings up another question for me then. Would you think it would be more effective then to funnel people to a meeting before anything else? Advertise a meeting, host or post things about going to a meeting locally, what's near them, what's available to them, before trying to sell them on the idea of BNI?
Absolutely. Have them experience it first. Nobody wants to be sold to, but everybody wants to buy. Right. And if someone were to approach me and try to sell me on the idea before I've ever experienced it, I don't understand the value. All I know is I'm going to pay some sort of amount of money to attend a meeting. Whereas if you attend the meeting and you sit there and you experience it, you see the value in the transactions, and then it makes sense. So now you're not being sold to, now you want to buy. And so I definitely think that that's probably the best way to go, is just have someone attend the meeting, and then, maybe it's right for them, maybe it's not, but at least they've attended the meeting and they understand what it's all about.
Okay. Here is a little bit of just a more opinionated question here. This is something you could completely come up with, or maybe If you don't know at all, that's fine as well. But one thing that we notice with social media with businesses is that you really don't gain engagement or a following unless it's only maybe 10 to 20% sales, and the rest is just filler personal events, things going on that people are actually interested in watching. So do you think there's things that BNI events that they could host or new things that they could come up with that would be great to fill that role of just relationships, personal lives, things like maybe going bowling per se, different ideas where it's not business, it's just memberships and relationships that are built within the group?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of opportunities to do stuff like that. Getting out in the community on things like, volunteering days, and just showing the strength of BNI and inviting some folks along, having, just an after hours get together. There's value in having those sort of events to drive people through, and then to advertise those on social media obviously makes a lot of sense. I think, though, one of the things with BNI, because networking has some negative connotations to it, for whatever reason. So I think it's got to be more than just, hey, we're going to post this and we're going to hope people show up. It's posting it and then reaching out and saying, hey, I saw you like this, or I saw you might have been interested in it. Can I tell you a little bit more about it? I'd just love to invite you. So I think social media is certainly a important tool. I don't think it's the only tool.
Perfect. That's definitely agreeable. One last thing here. I mean, we hit all the main points. So now I'm just going to kind of give you an opportunity where if you have any funny stories, any heartwarming stories, just any kind of testimonial or story that you've had thus far as a member of BNI.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I can talk about results. I guess a couple things to talk about. I've got a couple good stories. So the first story has to do with me, and it has to do with my basement flooded. And it was a Friday afternoon. My basement flooded, and I'm dealing with a bunch of water damage. I was able to call two people from my BNI group, a water damage restoration person and someone that does foundations. And they were over there that afternoon, and they were getting stuff done for me. And if I'm Joe Schmo calling off the streets, they're not coming. They've got other stuff going on. But they made me a priority. So that was a big deal to me. So that's the first kind of neat story about BNI. The second neat story about BNI is to be a member in BNI, you've got to be good at what you do, and you've got to be pretty honest about it. Because if you're not good at what you do and you're not honest, you're not going to get past referrals, and you're going to leave BNI. So there's a certain trust factor that if you have a BNI member out there doing work, they do a good job. My mother lives by herself, and she doesn't live in this area, and she needed someone to come work on her garage door. So the first thing I did was I went to the BNI chapter in her area, and I looked to see if there's anyone that works on garage doors, and there was. I called them, and I had them go take care of my mom's work. And it's because I immediately trust them. I didn't have to go looking through the yellow pages saying, man, I hope this person will show up. I immediately knew they're a BNI member. They're credible. They do good work. So that's another story. The final story is about data. And data is where I live. So I track a lot of things. And the results are so different when I look at the work I do with clients that are referred to me through BNI and the work I do through clients that are acquired another way. And without getting into too many of the numbers, it takes about 9 touch points for me to work with a client for them to agree to become a client, right? If I cold call them or I'm introduced to them some other way, it's about 9 touch points. When I'm introduced via BNI, it's 3 touch points. So the big thing is I've just shortcutted the sales cycle into that. So that's the thing. Additionally, my success rate in them becoming clients is much different. When I just reach out to them or I'm introduced another way, it's 9 touch points, but only about 30% of the time do they say, yeah, they want to come on board as a client. When it comes to BNI, that success rate is a little closer to 80%. So not only is it a shorter sales cycle through BNI, but the success rate's a lot higher. And it's because the people in BNI are trusted. And when they refer you, you're borrowing that trust, and people will be willing to do business with you. So those are a couple stories from BNI that just kind of mean something to me.
Perfect. Those are great examples. I have one last question then, and then I think we'll be done here. I mean, definitely thank you so much for hopping on. This has been a great mix of informational as well as testimonial, and just some bits like you said there that'll be perfect for, you know, the story. That 9 to 3 is very interesting. The touch points, I think that's something that holds a lot of value, reducing those touch points in the sales process. So thank you for that. The one last question I have here is, what do you think, in terms of your personal experience, has been the most, let me rephrase that. What do you think is your biggest incentive for bettering your chapter overall? So for your personal gain from bettering the chapter overall.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. So our chapter has been around for almost 15 years, and I've only been there for a couple of years. But I've been able to meet with a lot of different chapters. I get invited to other chapters, and I see that they do things a little differently. So the value in me in finding ways to do things better for our chapter is that it makes the meetings more effective. It makes the one-to-ones more effective. What we sometimes lose sight of in networking is that it's a business meeting. BNI is still a business meeting. As much as we like one another, it's a business meeting, and it has to result in some sort of business, or else it doesn't make sense to continue it. So for me, the value in making the chapter better is that this is a function of my business. I rely on this to bring me revenue. And investing my time and my energy in making the chapter better makes sense, because that's going to improve the revenue I get. And the way that works is, if I'm doing a one-to-one and all we're doing is talking about our families and what's going on in the news, that doesn't help anybody refer me, and it doesn't help me refer them. But if we structure, we say, okay, I know in the past we just kind of met and had coffee, but here's an agenda for a one-to-one. Here's how to structure it. Well, what that's going to do is it's going to lead to more referrals, which is going to lead to more thank you for closed business, which is at the end of the day what we want to achieve. So when you say, you know, what's in it for me? What's in it for me is that, you know, it's a business meeting. We want to make sure we treat it as such.
Okay, perfect. We touched upon everything. I think we made good time as well. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you have anything to add or any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, or kind of create a separate segment to add anything if you'd like. But that's all that I had so far.
Yeah. You know, I'd love to record just a piece of, you know, our BNI chapter, just say, hey, BNI Flagship chapter meets Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. Just because that'd be cool to kind of put it up there. I probably won't mention the location just because we may end up moving. Yeah, you know, if I can just, you know, say that the BNI Flagship chapter meets every Wednesday in Erie, Pennsylvania from 7 a.m. to 8:30, and it's an opportunity for business leaders to meet with like-minded business leaders, and it's 90 minutes of really you getting to train other business leaders how to sell your product, you know, and how to recognize those opportunities for you. So it's a great opportunity for you, and it may not be for you, but I highly recommend you just come and visit one time just to see if it's something worth committing to.